All right, let's get started. Um, I wanted to start by saying that having an Indian rupee stablecoin is something truly fascinating if we can create a sense of stability in a country as endemic from the north to south. You know, it's considered the biggest democracy. And when I think about this, I think there's around 190 million unbanked people in India currently. And the crypto world and the world of token economies could actually change and revolutionize what that means for India, which I'm very excited about. And so I like to kickstart by saying, firstly, India is the second most populated country in the world, and I'm sure everyone's aware of that, right after China, which means it's also one of the biggest markets. It's the most diverse. Like I said, from north to south, you're dealing with very different people, cultures, as well as the economy is in itself. When you look at India as an entirety, there are micro economies within it. And I feel like the decentralized nature of blockchain technology can help us tackle this with much ease, but it will also take take time for us to grasp the true potential. However, according to Chainanalysis, India is ranked the second country on the list of 20 in 2021 with the highest cryptocurrency adoption rate. We're currently sitting at a population of 1.39 billion people, which is quite insane. You know, we've been estimated at 18 million Indian citizens approximately, which is 1.3% of the population today, live outside of India. So there's a lot of money being generated by Indian citizens who are NRIs sitting outside of India and who send a lot of foreign direct investment back home, and also send remittances back to their families. There's a lot of transfer back to families to keep their families in a sustainable state. And so just having that knowledge that there is a big population that does live outside, which has always been something India has kind of grappled with as a brain drain. But I think there's a lot happening in India right now. Just looking at this, it's considered the second ranked in adoption for cryptocurrency. There's a lot of great innovation that's actually brewing here within India, and I think is going to enable the benefits of the blockchain industry, the crypto industry, if regulations kind of act in our favor over time, and we can kind of work with the governments to allow mass adoption and also help the unbanked to really understand this through education. I think we can make great change. All right, so a little bit about the history of the Indian currency. It traces back to the 6th century, a long time ago, right? One of the oldest civilizations. We were one of the earliest issuers of coins, along with the Chinese. And the silver coin remained in use in the Mughal Empire, which was, our kind of royal empire back in the day. This was kind of then extended into use as well when British India evolved, where we were colonized by the British. So all the way back to the Mughal period, to the point where we were colonized by the British, we did have silver coins. The word rupee is actually derived from a Sanskrit word, and Sanskrit is the old traditional language in India. It is the authentic way of saying, of Indian Hindi, really, the Hindi language. And what it means is a silver coin, and it kind of stuck on, and so it's evolved from that. The earliest paper rupees were issued by the Bank of Hindustan, the General Bank of Bihar, and Bengal, and the Bengal Bank. This was in 1770 through to 1832. In the early 1900s, so that's 1935, the Reserve Bank of India was set up. This was before the gold standard died, and we were pegged to the US dollar, and the US dollar was pegged to gold reserves sitting in Fort Knox. In 1980, new notes were issued. This was also in regard to really promoting the arts and culture and science industries. So there were art forms on these notes and different symbols of science and tech, which is really, really nice to see that that was kind of the vision at that time for how people should view wealth in India. In 1996, Mahatma Gandhi, which I'm sure everyone's familiar with, issued a series of notes with the 10 rupee notes and the 500 rupee notes. The series was replaced. The series has replaced all the notes of the Lion Capital series of currency notes issued after India declared independence. So it was kind of like, okay, now we've got our independence. The British are out. We're no longer colonized. So we published a new series of notes. In 1966, we had an economic crisis. I think it was a global economic crisis where we were, dramatically affected. As a result, the government issued bonds to the RBI, which is the Reserve Bank of India, which increased money supply, lending to inflation, right, leading to inflation. And, one of the fundamentals of the crypto world and, building a allow for more stability and also find ways where we can allow for this volatility to kind of be figured out and from a technology standpoint, right, where we're not trusting just one central point of authority, which in this case is the government, Reserve Bank of India, but we can kind of find ways in which we create within the country. And so, I think that's the main issue and the main vision for the initial starting of Bitcoin was how can we create a more decentralized approach, which was kind of like revolting against the government, but mainly around the point of, well, how do we know how much money is printed when things go wrong, and how can we prevent inflation and create for more ownership to the individual rather than by the authorities. So in 1991, there was another economic crisis. You still had a fixed exchange system where the rupee was pegged to the value of a basket of the major currencies in the world. And then from 2000 to 2007, the rupee kind of stabilized. It was really dropping. It was quite bad. Where $1 was around 44 to 48 rupees. And in late 2007, it reached a record high of rupees 39 per dollar. The trend reversed with the 2008 world financial crisis as all the foreign investors transferred huge sums of money back to their own countries. And then this caused a depreciation and inflation to be at its peak in 2013. 2016, our government decided to demonetize. So they introduced new notes of 500 and 2,000, and the main reason for this, they say, was, to stop the supply or use of black money in the economy, and to be able to, stop use of it for human trafficking and all of these kind of activities, which are kind of, under the carpet. India is so big, so dynamic, and obviously there's a lot that needs to be done when a country has is the second most populated in the world. And so one of the mechanisms they thought was, well, if we introduce this concept of demonetization, that we would be able to then get rid of the black money and, we'd have less corruption. Some say it failed, some say it succeeded. I think it was a failure, but each to their own. There's a lot of material around that you can read up on, and this was not too long ago. India's economy is characterized as a middle-income developing economy. It's the sixth largest economy by nominal GDP and the third largest by purchasing power, which is huge. That's why everyone wants to be a part of this economy. I mean, Amazon was fighting to be a part of it for a very long time until we kind of dropped our guard down and allowed them in. And obviously, local startups kind of suffered at the cost of a giant coming in, a tech giant coming in. But pros and cons to globalization versus localization, and how do you protect local businesses? So India premium sector agriculture and services, and this contributes to 7% of the GDP, which is massive. It's the biggest chunk. According to the World Bank, to achieve sustainable economic development, India must focus on the public sector reform, so infrastructure, agriculture, and development. Naturally there's so much that needs to be done, and right now India has opened up. It's actually embracing it, as you could see in the first slide. I mean, it's the adoption rate is quite massive, and India is looking to actually launch its currency, national cryptocurrency. That ends up and what the guidelines are in regard to that, how they roll it out. So India has the 7th largest consumer market in the world. This is expected to be 7.7 by 2022. As you can see over here, right, our expenditure from 2019 to in trillions, India is right there between the UK and the world. Pharmaceutical sector for 50% of the global demand of it's definitely medications a lot cheaper here in general. That's why people come here too. Okay. The Indian IT industry, so that's where I was at, is a major exporter of IT services with 191 billion in revenue and employees and over 51 million people. There's a long list of different interesting facts about the Indian economy here. It ranks 2nd in the world in food and agriculture production, which actually is huge. We export. We have fertile soil, and we're known for that. We export plenty in that space. India's automobile industry is the world's largest, 5th largest by production. I would think so, considering we have a lot of people here, and the need for employment is huge. So when the last wave of the Industrial Revolution happened, a lot of the factories opened up over here for not only for cheap labor that could be gained through globalization, but also just to help with employment rates, right? India's retail market is worth 1.17 trillion and contributes to 10% of India's GDP. India has one of the world's fastest growing e-commerce markets. India has the world's 4th largest natural resource deposit here, and it's the world's 2nd largest producer of cold steel and cement, and the 3rd largest in electricity. It's funny, having said that, India does have a distribution problem, and I believe technologies right now, the exponential technologies, can help solve for this kind of distribution, but it will definitely take some time for adoption, especially within the rural areas, or implementation, I would say, into the infrastructure in rural areas. And India's textile industry is worth 100 billion. So just looking at these numbers, we can see there's immense value in India. And when I think about the token economy, to be able to create token economies in different pockets in India with different, differences in culture and differences in taste from north to south, and the way microeconomies almost function, it could serve as very interesting use cases for us at UNIT, or for the blockchain industry as a whole. The Indian stock exchange market became the 10th largest in the world in terms of market capitalization. So the BSE and the National Stock Exchange have market capitalization of 3.36 trillion and 3.31 trillion in September 2021. Some of India's large companies include Reliance Industries, HDFC, Indian Oil Corporation, and Tata Group, which is very popular in regard to leadership studies and employee studies as well. India's 10th India's 10 largest trading partners in 2020 were the United States, China, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Switzerland, Germany, Hong Kong, Indonesia, South Korea, and Malaysia. The foreign direct investments in India was 74 billion. So you can just imagine the amount coming into the country and the amount of transfer fees involved over there. The country has also entered into free trade agreements with these various entities in South Korea. In 2021, India was the third in the world for a number of billionaires, right after the United States and China. Indian billionaires, Mukesh Ambani, I'm sure, you know, if there are Indians on this call, Praveen Ankor, you know these. And Lashmi Mittal from Mittal Steels have consistently made it to the world's top 10 billionaires list. As per a report by Credit Suisse Global Wealth in 2019, India ranked 13 in the world and hosted 759,000 millionaires. India's financial capital city Mumbai ranks 20 in the world and is home to 48,100 millionaires. So we do know that people have deep pockets here, institutions have deep pockets here, and ironically, which is very sad, and this goes into this slide, the division of wealth is really depressing to kind of see how much inequity there is in India. Over here we say that India ranks 6th in the highest net worth individuals list. So total wealth in India increased 8-fold between 2000 and 2020. So this point right here is quite alarming, and you know, every time I think about the power of blockchain and crypto and token economies, this one statistic stands out, which is the wealth inequality in India. It's quite high, and the Gini coefficient is at 82, which is massive, which just means that the inequity gaps are so massive, and that we need to find a solution for this, and to serve the unbanked would definitely help mobilize cash and mobilize as well talent in the economy. So India's net external debt was placed at 570 billion by March 2021. The largest component of the external debt comprises of commercial borrowing of around 37%, followed by non-resident deposits of 24.8% and short-term trade credit of 17.4%. This is huge. I know that earlier this year, India sold its U.S. Treasury bonds, a large chunk of them, to kind of help soften the blow of the amount of debt that has been accumulated. I can't recall the exact percentage, but they had to sell quite a bit of what they had in stake in U.S. Treasury bonds. India has a very vibrant and thriving startup ecosystem, which is very exciting for the world of the token economy world, for the world of cryptocurrency and blockchain and AI and all this amazing stuff that could possibly shift us into solving for the sustainable development goals that need to be met by 2030. And there's a lot of money, as you could see in the earlier slides, that are sitting in deep pockets that need to come out into projects that are actually driven for good, impact for good, and that can help create not just liquidity in the market, but can allow for upskilling of the labor force, as well as a lessening of unemployment rates and helping the unbanked. So India has emerged as the third largest startup economy in the world. As you know, Bangalore is tech central. If you go to San Francisco, you walk around Silicon Valley, there's a lot of Indians that are there because there's a lot of knowledge that has been waiting to come out by the youth that are so talented in India. And you know, this mindset of having to go abroad to make that happen, especially this concept of Silicon Valley being the only place where you could kind of make your dreams come to reality, is changing. And there's a lot of startup hubs and startup communities that now almost are bringing together Indian talent, superstars here in India together to create this these new businesses that are homegrown here in India that can shift the economy for the better. So digital activity of India's economy contributed to $200 billion or 13% to India's economy, which is huge. India is aiming to achieve $1 trillion in digital economy by 2025. Now, blockchain and cryptocurrency in India. There's a lot happening in this space. Blockchain forensics firm Chainanalysis reported that India jumped from 11 to 2nd, as you saw on the first slide. I like to reiterate this because it just says that the adoption rate for blockchain technology and the openness for it is huge, has huge potential. There's 15 million crypto investors here in India itself. So projects like Unit could be funded, well by the Indian community. I could also provide this decentralized technology to enable a lot of things that we saw and I touched on briefly earlier in regard to the unbanked population. Approximately 350 startups in the crypto and blockchain space. Crypto investments exploded from 923 million in April 2020 to 6.6 billion in May 2021. One Indian in every 6 or so are crypto users, which says a lot. More than 90% of Indians prefer using P2P marketplaces, peer-to-peer marketplaces, which is definitely a good thing for anyone in the space of blockchain technology and building projects on those such protocols. Out of the 7,730 blockchain companies listed on Crunchbase, 277 are located in India. Polygon, in fact, is a protocol that was initially founded by Indians. Indian crypto investments are expected to increase to 15.6 billion by 2030. And the Reserve Bank of India has stated they will be starting CBDC trials, which is great, by December 2021, which is right around the corner. Prominent companies in the blockchain and cryptocurrency space in India is Polygon, as I just mentioned. There will be a talk on it later today. Solana, Instadap, FalconX, CoinDCX, and former Coinbase CTO. The top Indian IT companies in blockchain is Infosys, Tata Consultancy Services, Tech Mahindra, HCL Technologies, and Wipro. If you're interested in what's going on in India, it'd be good to do some research on these companies. There's a lot going on in their space. Global interest in the Indian market. Global crypto exchange giants already in India, like Binance, Coinbase. In fact, just watching some cricket matches with my dad the other day, there are ads about getting Bitcoin and getting crypto savvy, which I was really amazed by. And of course, my dad was just like, "What is this?" And I think the new generation is definitely going to have to explain to the generations that aren't vested or aren't aware of what a digital currency could look like, what blockchain technology really is. And I think that's just a great way, like just sitting down with my mom and dad or close friends who maybe, I have friends of all age groups, so friends in their 60s, and explaining what this really could mean for India is very interesting because I get some really solid questions that I need to tackle in my conversations, which is cool. So these are all the different crypto exchange giants already in India. Existing use cases of blockchain technology in India is, over 60% of Indian states have adopted to blockchain technology. At least there's use cases being built. People are testing the technology. They're trying to figure out what it means and trying to solve for different problems, which is great. Use cases include the land registry, duty payment, farm insurance, remittances, digital identity, digital health records, managing subsidies, title allocation, real estate, microfinance. you know, and more. So if you just Google some of the use cases in India, you can pull up quite a few studies on different things that are being tested here. Top banks in India have worked with RippleNet for performing international remittances. So, you know, things are happening. They're starting to see that the adoption is huge, and they're going to have to adapt or be disrupted. India became the fourth country in the world to roll out blockchain-powered educational documents. And this is testament to India's openness for this technology and openness to what it could possibly do for our economy and our population. So in conclusion, one, billions are changing hands via India's digital currency exchanges. Market growth has moved from incremental to exponential. India's DCEs are growing rapidly to keep pace with the market, and 75% of crypto investors are in the age bracket of 18 to 35. Very exciting to see what this means in the world of crypto here in India. And thank you very much for spending this half an hour with me. And I think we've got no time. We are on the half an hour mark. Thanks so much, everyone, for listening and sitting in.
Thanks, Ayn.
Thank you.